Thank you all for tuning in. The following is a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people.
Yes, it is I, your humble host, Bill Hatch III, coming to you live from the Palatial Home Studios, Bald Spots Productions here in the beautiful city of Malden, Missouri. I am joined today by my guests from a more than acceptable safe social distance, Boni Stafford. How you doing, Boni?
I'm doing excellent today. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Bill.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, for sure. And it's certainly going to be, because we're going to get to know each other a little bit better here over the course of the next half hour or so. Let's see. Well, I usually start off with the same question of all my guests. What are you reading?
I am reading a couple of things. I am reading some manuscripts that we have in development because, of course, I'm a publisher at Ingenium Books. And I am also reading one of the award-winning books from Canada. The name of the award program escapes me. I can't remember if it was a Giller Prize winner or a Canada Reads winner, but and I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of the book. But I'll tell you. Can I tell you what I just finished?
Okay.
The one I just finished is called Five Little Indians. It was another award winner from that same program that I can't remember the name of. The same awards program, but Five Little Indians set in Canada. And I don't know if you or your listeners would have been aware of the residential school issue in Canada,
yes.
where yes. So Five Little Indians is a novel that follows five of those First Nations children who were taken from their families and follows them through their experiences in one of those residential schools and some of the issues that they dealt with as they were growing up into adulthood as a result of that trauma. So a very, very, very good book with a strong message. Now, the book that I am reading right now, that is, whose the title I can't remember. It's terrible. But it is another important story where it's telling the story of some refugee immigrants and what their experience is arriving in a new country. So, yeah, interesting.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I've heard about this First Nations issue in Canada. Yeah, it's turning into a pretty big deal, that's for sure, and as it should.
Yes.
But
exactly.
Yeah. No. So where are you exactly? I didn't look to see that because I know you did a sail around the world thing. Well, maybe not entirely around the world, but and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But where are you now?
I am now in La Paz, which is the capital city of Baja California Sur, which is a state in the country of Mexico. And by the time this episode publishes, I will probably have moved to Puerto Vallarta. We are actually moving from the house we're in La Paz to another house in Puerto Vallarta next week. But we are Canadian. We are from Canada. And our publishing company is Canadian, but we are living in Mexico. And yeah, it started because we spent 3 years living full-time on our boat on the Pacific side of Mexico, sailing around the Sea of Cortez and up and down the Pacific coast. And we just fell in love with we fell in love with Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah.
What attracted you to I mean, there are many beautiful and wonderful things in Mexico, as I've been to a couple places down there. But what attracted
Yeah.
you to do that in the first place?
That's a great question. So we were, and I say we, meaning my husband and I, we were, so we left Canada 8 years ago now,
Okay.
and we had come from what we call the corporate rat race. And we had done a tally of how much time we were spending, for example, in the car in our commute. And so 2.5 hours a day. And we multiplied that over a work week, took out sleep time. And we, over the course of a year, each of us was spending the equivalent of 8 weeks of productive time in
Wow.
our commute. And that was like, oh no, we do not have that much time. We do not have eight weeks a year to donate to our commute. So that was what that was where the plan got its start. And it took us a couple of years to get ready, but we were actually looking for an authentic experience, more outdoor experiences. We wanted to be able to be as creative as we felt we wanted to. Each of us has particular creative passions that our corporate lives and corporate jobs, there was some creativity in it, but it wasn't the same. So we were looking for authenticity and sort of, freedom and the outdoor experience. And so we left Canada having sold all our stuff. And we bought our sailboat and moved aboard the sailboat. And
wow.
So we were looking for sunshine. Who's kidding who? We didn't want to shovel any more snow. And we were looking for something different. We didn't really know. We had no idea whether we would like it. We had been to Mexico for vacations, and it's like, okay, this weather is pretty good in February. Why am I going back home to shovel the driveway and whatnot? So that's what attracted us down here. And then, of course, the cost of living doesn't hurt either.
No, I bet. We moved. My cousin and I, we moved from Southern California, which also has fairly nice weather in February, to southeastern Missouri, in part because we went from a place where you can't even look at a house for $350,000 when we were able to purchase an entire property for 35. And while some parts of some of the cost of living stuff is a little bit more or the same as what it is in California, but the property thing, the property values are much more reasonable. We went from paying $1,600 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment to owning outright a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house on a 1/4 acre, which is interesting to get used to. We haven't been here through a winter yet, so I haven't had the pleasure of shoveling a walk. But I have been learning about mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, that sounds very exciting, and I'd be interested in talking with you after you go through the next winter, and finding out how you think this move and owning your house like that has impacted your overall quality of life.
Definitely will be something that time will tell. How was you spent 3 years on the boat, right? Was it 3 years on the boat? Yeah. How did that? I mean, that's a pretty drastic change to go from commuting 8 weeks out of the year to to living full time on a boat. And all. How did that affect the little things as far as quality of life goes?
It was such an incredible experience, and it affected the little things and it affected the big things. It changed everything. It put everything into perspective. We, you know, it taught me not to sweat the small stuff. And it did that by showing us what actually was the small stuff that needed to be sweat over. So living on a sailboat, I mean, there was the beautiful vistas and there were the beautiful bays and there was the snorkeling and the swimming every day and the dolphins and the whales and the weather and all of that stuff that was all amazing. And there was the weather impacts that we had to pay attention to in a completely different way because our lives depended on it. We had experiences that scared the crap out of me. Not so much my husband. He's a better sailor than I am. I'm not the sailor in our family. I could do whatever he told me to do, and that was appropriate. I was definitely the first mate. But we learned that there are small things when you live on a boat that you have to pay attention to, and you have to pay attention to them right now. Otherwise, you could be risking your life. And when you own a house, it's different. So when you own a house and you have a dripping pipe in the bathroom, you can let it go for a week or maybe 2. When you live on a boat and there's any leak of any kind anywhere, you must pay attention to it, and you must pay attention to it right now. And we learned that the hard way. Little things like I'll tell you. I'll just quickly tell you one story that demonstrates what I'm talking about. So we'd been on the boat a little over a year, maybe it was a year and a half by this time, and we were anchored outside La Cruz, which is just north of Puerto Vallarta. It's in Banderas Bay. And so the anchorage, there were several other boats anchored there at the same time. Thank heavens. But this could have happened somewhere where we were the only boat, and it would have been a different story. But so we had a couple of days prior to this event, I thought I smelled something. I said to John, I remember John's my husband. I said, I think I'm smelling moisture. I'm smelling something that doesn't quite smell normal. And this is when we go walk inside the boat into the cabin. And we kind of did a cursory look, but it wasn't really overpowering. And we didn't really take it too much farther than that. A couple of mornings later, we woke up early, of course. And there was this sound. And it was almost like there were a whole bunch of little fish nibbling on the hull. But our boat was made of wood and was not a very good sound amplifier. And so it couldn't have been that. We shouldn't have been able to smell that. But my husband leapt out of bed, opened the floorboard into the bilge to find it full of water. So the sound we were hearing was the water in the bilge. So what the smell from a couple of days previous was water. We didn't investigate it far enough. But so our bilge pump had stopped working. Clearly there was a leak somewhere. And I had the pleasure of getting onto the radio for the first and only time in our live aboard experience, taking a deep breath, being as calm as I could, and issuing what's called a pan, which is essentially our lives aren't in danger, but we can see it from here. So I issued a pan, said we were, I explained what was happening, that our bilge was full of water. Our bilge pump wasn't working. We had no other pump other than a manual thing. So John was manually pumping, but we were not going to be able to clear the water by ourselves. And within 5 minutes, we had 5 dinghies from neighboring boats arriving with help. either with buckets or with hoses, and then pretty soon somebody else
My
brought
internet
a
is
portable
disconnected.
electric pump. And so we had the water
Sorry,
all
folks.
out of there in about an hour and a half,
Hopefully,
thanks to
hopefully Boni keeps talking.
all these other people who came to our rescue. And so that's an example of the kind of thing where something is different. And when you're on a boat, as compared to when you're in a house,
connect.
You have to pay attention to it and you have to investigate it. And if something seems to be different, it smells different, it looks different, it sounds different, you need to understand what it is right away. And you have to take action. Now, I've just lost you. Just me. I'm just going to hang tight. Bill disappeared. His internet. I'm just waiting. This is what happened when you moved to Missouri. Awesome. You didn't even mention it to me. Yeah.
I'm back.
Yay!
I am so sorry. I lost my internet.
I knew that's what had happened, and I knew you'd come back if you could.
Yep. Well, I appreciate that. But yeah, we're recording again. Let's see. You were telling the story about the bilge pump not working, and you sending out the pan.
Right. And so I think probably my side kept recording, so I know where I ended up.
Okay.
So the whole point of telling that story is we were fine. We got the water out thanks to the help from other people, thanks to being in an anchorage where we weren't all by ourselves. It would have, I don't really want to think too much about what situation we would have been in. I'm sure we would have been fine too, but there was a lot of water to pump out manually with no power. But the point that I was making is that that's the kind of thing that is different about living on a boat. And we had several of those kinds of experiences that kept teaching us there are small things that you have to sweat, but they're different than the small things that you can sweat that you don't really need to worry about when you're, living in a house on land. But it was so valuable and was incredible. And I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And we're done with that now, though, because we were building our publishing business, and it became very difficult to manage both the boat and the business at the same time.
I can imagine. You don't want either of those to sink at any given time.
Exactly.
But yeah, how was it? Starting a business while you're on a boat. I mean, that can be difficult enough, especially in the publishing world, to do that on dry land, let alone with where the floor isn't necessarily going to stay in one position for very long.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was challenging, but interesting and rewarding. Now, we never intended to move aboard the boat and stop working. We always had intended that we would be engaged in our work. And I'm a former journalist, and when we left Canada and we were doing this, I was ghostwriting books for clients and editing for clients. And so it was a natural evolution that we would move into becoming a full-fledged publisher. And so it was challenging to build the business, but at the same time, it was just natural and it just made sense. And it fed our passion for helping people. It fed our passion for being creative and being responsible for all aspects of our lives, business, personal, outdoors. safety, like all of that. So we really thrived on that. We had to plan things differently. So when you're moving from one place to another on the boat, obviously there's no internet, and you can't be. Everything has to be put away. You know, batten down the hatches it's a real thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So we plan our voyages from one anchorage to another. We had several experiences where we would actually cross large bodies of water. So the Sea of Cortez, for example, the body of water between mainland Mexico and the Baja California Peninsula, goes like that. It's 100 to 125 miles across. So it takes 24 hours or so on the boat. We've done that numerous times. We've done the 4-day sail between the Baja Peninsula and the mainland down in Puerto Vallarta. That's a full 4 days. So there's no internet while you're doing that. There is now actually with the satellite dishes that Elon Musk has launched into, but there wasn't that wasn't there when we were there. So we had to plan when we were available for our clients. We had to plan when we would be available and have internet. But it was all doable until it wasn't doable, and that's when we moved off the boat and onto land. We needed both of us to be available all day, every day, and living on the boat. One of us had to have the boat as the top priority, and that was my husband as the captain, because of those little things and the maintenance issues. And we realized our growth got us to a place where we both had to be available. So.
Okay. And now the publishing company is Ingenium Books. Is that how you say it?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And can be found on ingeniumbooks.com. The link's in the description, so everybody can find it nice and easily. But where'd you come up with the name?
I'm so glad you asked me that. So I alluded to why we left Canada, that we were looking for an authentic experience. We were looking for a way to allow our creative passions to come to the forefront. So when we bought the sailboat, which we bought the sailboat before we incorporated our company, but when we bought the sailboat and we were looking around for a name, I stumbled across Ingenium, which is Latin for creative mind, creative thinking, ingenuity. And so we named our boat Ingenium. And then when we were at the stage not very far forward, where we were ready to incorporate our company name, it just had to be Ingenium. It was just too perfect. And it is still perfect. So that's how we came up with the name. People often pronounce it not the way we pronounce it. I don't know what's right or what's wrong, but we pronounce it Ingenium.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking, because it sounds like, it is the root word of ingenious. So I think that's got to be how it's supposed to be pronounced. But
yeah.
But my mother has told me in the past that my Latin sounds like Spanish. So
well, there you go.
Probably from having spent so much time in Southern California. But
right.
Okay. And then what kinds of books do you all publish primarily?
We publish primarily nonfiction, but not exclusively. And our publishing program is actually one where we are interested in helping authors tell stories that can be transformative in some way, shape, or form. It could be a transformation around something therapeutic, either mental health or physical health, or personal growth, or moving to a deeper understanding of something. So transformative stories that help us make sense of the world, that kind of have the potential to bring something positive to not just the readers, but beyond. And so when we look at that criteria, that certainly covers the type of nonfiction that we do. So we've done lots of memoir. We've done some mental health, some science, some self-help, some business books in the nonfiction category. But we've also started to look at fiction books, and we've got when a fiction book meets that criteria of having a larger transformative message in that way, we consider those. We published our first fiction in 2022, which is by another Canadian author, and it's called Listen for Water. And I was struck by that story because it's the story of a very dysfunctional mother-daughter duo. The daughter is a teenager. The mother is a bit of a mess. And they go through just a wild experience. I won't give away what the experience is, but they end up stranded in the wilderness for a long time, and they have to figure out how to work together. And through the story, their roles change from the mother being a mess and the teenager being parentified, taking responsibility where the mother should be taking. By the end of the story, the roles have reversed and the mother is in the right position in the relationship hierarchy, and the daughter is back to being a teenager. Anyway, it's fascinating. Wow. And then another fiction that we are publishing just a couple of weeks from now at the time of this recording is written by Todd Gray, and it's called The 49th Protocol, and it's a thriller. So it's a crime caper, but we were talking about the residential school issue in Canada earlier. This novel touches on that, but it's based on the author's 30-year experience working in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he's woven together a very interesting tale that while it's fiction, it also sheds some light on some of the darker sides of Canada's largest crime-fighting organization. Bullying, harassment, those kinds of things. So in that way, there's a larger message in that story as well. So that's a longer answer than I'm sure you were expecting for what kind of books we publish, but that's
quite all right.
Kind of gives you an idea.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, what's your part of the process in an average book? What is it you're doing, and how is it you help authors, and what can they do to make the most of that opportunity when they work with you?
Yeah, great question. So on one hand, it depends, but I am the publisher, and I am the editorial stop, if you like. Most of our manuscripts will be worked on by a number of our editors, and I'm always involved in the acquisition and the assessment at the beginning. If there's author coaching that needs to be done through the development of the manuscript, that will be me. Very deep, heavy hands on that editorial development part of the process. And then I'm involved in the final review and check in the editorial sense. But as publisher, I also oversee the rest of our team, from the creative design elements and the market analysis for each title that we look at, and all of the moving parts, from the layout and the typesetting and the training our authors on how they can run the launch of their book, and
Mhm.
giving them a good foundation for their marketing. So our authors will often deal with several of our other team members at one time or another, but they will probably most consistently be working with me and with my husband and business partner, who he does all the financial, operational, logistical, systems, technology, all of those kinds of things. So we each, it's nice that we have very different skill sets, very different roles that complement each other. And so he oversees the team members that fit within those buckets, and I oversee the processes and team members that fit in the publishing and editorial.
Okay. And let's see. Of course, we did say ingeniumbooks.com with the link in the description. But how can people get a hold of you, especially would-be authors?
Yeah, the best way is through the website's contact form, which is pretty easy to find at that web URL. But I'm also going to give you my email address.
Okay, great.
If somebody wants to reach out to me directly, I am more than happy to explore that. And it's Boni, which is spelt funny, BONI, at ingeniumbooks.com.
Okay, great. And then yeah, you've been doing quite a few podcasts, it looks like.
Yes.
What kind of resources are available on the website?
Resources for authors, you mean? Oh, we have a huge repository of blog articles, for example.
Okay.
Obviously, it's our website, so you can find out whatever you want to find out about our process, how we work, what kind of titles we like to publish. You can also find out about the authors we have worked with. We have a big, robust author area. Each of our authors has their own page. You can read about who we have published before. Their books have their own page. So there's a ton of things you can find out about us. In terms of resources for helping other authors and even other publishers, our blog, also accessible from the website. I mean, there's hundreds of articles there on everything from, how to write good dialogue and POV to how do you protect relationships when you're writing manuscript, to what are the tools you need if you're writing, to how do I think about marketing my book, all kinds of stuff. So there's lots of copyright issues.
Yeah, I noticed.
Do I need permission to use that quote?
Yeah, I noticed a recent article on AI even, and how that affects copyright. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So there's a couple on AI. Yeah, everything. So we have fun with our blog.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But okay. Yeah. Well, let's see. So what's next for Ingenium? What's the next big step?
Oh, there's always big steps. We're behind the scenes. We're working away at developing our own bookstore. And I don't mean a brick and mortar bookstore, but we would like to be able to have readers buy our books, our authors' books, direct from us. So we've got plans in the works for that. We are always growing and evolving and working to improve. So there's always things going on in the background around that. For example, one of the big projects we have underway that doesn't directly affect authors, but certainly affects our ability to be as effective and efficient as possible with our growing team, which is developing our what we call SOPs, so standard operating procedures. There are so many things involved in having, a number of our team members do things the way we need to have them done. And we've become too big to keep training people one at a time on, okay, here's how we want you to do this thing verbally. So we're in the process of getting all those things written down, training videos recorded, all of that. So that's just, something in the background. But those are really the bigger things. We're pretty pleased with the caliber of authors and their books that we are both attracting and that we have published. We have a couple of Wall Street Journal bestsellers.
Nice.
And we'll have more in the next year. So it's all that. I think that really is the thing we're focusing on next, is making sure that operationally and behind the scenes we are setting ourselves up for the growth that seems to be happening anyway.
Okay.
And that kind of works.
Okay, great. Do you where are your people? Are they primarily in Canada, or do you have some in the States and in Mexico, or how international are you?
Yes. We're very international. I love this part. So our managing editor is in Germany. She's
Okay.
American, but she's in Germany. Our principal cover designer is Australian, but she's in Greece. Our lead copywriter and the woman that reads every manuscript and prepares our design briefs and our competitive analysis is from South Africa, but she's in Guatemala. Our web designer is in Venezuela. Our social media manager is from Canada, but she's in Colombia. We have another designer who is, and this is very odd, she's from Canada and she's in Canada. We have editors in Hawaii, the US, Canada, Mexico, and not me. One of our editors and writers is another Canadian who's in Mexico, not in the same area that I am. So we really are all over. And our authors are from all over too, mostly either Canada or the US, but we've published authors from Denmark and South Africa and Greece, and Canada and the US. But yeah, so we really enjoy, and it's been it has been purposeful that we've developed that team, because we believe that, much like the economy being global, people consume written and the audiobook version of materials often not just from a global perspective, but globally wherever they are. So, there's this whole digital nomad thing going on right now and thanks to the internet, people can, depending on what kind of job they have, they can be wherever. Well, they consume books that way. So we enjoy that aspect of our team and having them perspective on how the world works. And it doesn't mean that we don't pay attention to local when it comes to marketing, because you need to start very specific and make sure that you're targeting a local market first, so that you can then leverage it to have a ripple effect beyond. But strategically and from a worldview perspective, we like that global nature.
Yeah, that sounds like it would fit straight in with having authors all over the place, as having your editorial and other personnel all over the place.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's fun. We do everything via Zoom. Via Zoom or video or Riverside or,
Right.
wherever it is. We have also met met most of our authors in person. We a year ago, last summer, we did a great big huge road trip. And we drove and we met every one of our authors in person as best we could. We were gone a little over 2 months. It was fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds fun and interesting. Getting to see all those different places. I myself am very interested in global travel because getting to meet the people where they are and learn about their
Yes.
cultures and history and what all else. Definitely an exciting prospect. But I haven't been to nearly as many places as I want to be. Yep, for sure. Well, okay. Well, we've been doing this for a while. Not sure how long because the timer started over.
Right.
when I lost my internet, but
yeah,
maybe about
probably
40.
long enough.
Yeah, I think long enough. We don't want to wear everybody out. Want to have an excuse to have you back because you've definitely been an interesting guest.
I love that.
And maybe next time we won't have the cancellation of the second guest, and which was unfortunate, but unavoidable.
Yes, I hope they're doing. I hope they're doing okay.
Yeah, me too. But yeah. So I will ask you. Do you have any final words for the nice people?
Oh, gee. I would just say follow your passion.
Okay.
Dare to dream. Do the thing. Don't wait.
Right. Do it now.
Do it now.
Okay, and with that, I will remind everyone: be safe out there. Remember to wash your hands and watch the closing credits.
Thank you all for tuning in. This has been a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. I'd like to thank our producer, my beloved mother, Eileen Hatch.
I, of course, am your humble host.
I'd like to thank my special guest for today, Boni Stafford.
Support the show if you feel so led over on patreon.com. We're known as Bald Spots Pro. Don't you dare miss YWL Online. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever fine podcasts are offered.
Be sure to tune in next time when my special guests will be Stells DeRossi and Reagan Forston. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people.
If you or someone you know needs support now, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. That is the suicide and crisis lifeline here in the United States.